Welcome to Grizzora Live. We help small business owners get unstuck in their business and start really making progress in their life and in their business so the business is pushing them towards their goals instead of crushing them on their way to their goals. Brett, I did something I haven't done in a very long time recently, and I bet you couldn't guess what it is.
Um, Actually, I can because you hinted at it when we had a conversation about 2 weeks ago, what you were trying to do. So I'm guessing you made more progress on it.
I've hinted about a lot of different things. So, yeah, this one is a personal journey. So, if you'll let me indulge myself in a little bit of patting myself on the back, I'm going to do that if that's all right. You don't mind too much, do you?
Go for it.
All
Yeah.
right. So, a couple of years ago, for anyone who doesn't know, a couple of years ago, I was just minding my own business, going through life, literally just kind of walking along in life, and all of a
You have
sudden,
never minded, let alone your own business.
all right, fair enough. So I was walking along in my life though, and all of a sudden, as I'm walking along in life, my left leg stops walking, literally, and I couldn't walk anymore. For anybody who can't walk when you can, that kind of is kind of a lousy thing.
Did you
So
like
anyway,
transition to hopping or something?
more like crawling. My little infant at the time, I think she was like 18 months old or so. She started thinking because all I could do is literally crawl. And so I'm crawling around on the house in the house as much as I had to, but I was in so much pain and the leg wasn't functioning right. So even if I tried to say walk, it wouldn't. So I'm in that position. She thought I was playing with her. And so she's calling me, "Here, puppy, sit. You are bad puppy. You sit, you sit." And I'm like, "Come on, kid, I just got to get to the toilet." And she's, anyway, fortunately, modern medicine and the miracle of God, I was able to get in on December 23rd. I was the last surgery in the hospital before they shut the whole dumb thing down for Christmas. And they weren't going to open it back up until well after New Year's. And the odds from what I had been told was if that hadn't have been fixed during the moment that it got fixed, I would never have been able to walk again. So fortunate I can walk. Kind of a big deal. So when I
Yeah.
walk, I'm usually pretty grateful for that. But recently, I've been going to the gym, which isn't the thing. I've been going to the gym for a little while. Uh, but
Let's see. Let's see. Come on.
That's right. See those? See those guns?
Yeah. There we
No,
go.
no. So I was told I have to work on my back instead of the chest. You know, I don't want to be the hunched over guy. So, so I'm working on the back. But I was watching these people, and I've always been a cyclist. Loved cycling. I think my biggest day was over 120 miles that I put on my road bike in one day, and then I went for a swim when I got done. Just love cycling, but I've always hated running. And I'm watching these people on the treadmill. I was like, people on the treadmill are never fat. I don't want to be fat. Therefore, I'm going to get on treadmill. And for the first time since my back surgery, I ran a mile on a treadmill. And I had not tried running because of that pounding motion, but I was told by surgeon and everyone else, they're like, "You will be fine to have that pounding motion. Your back can handle it now." And so I did it. I ran a 12-minute mile. Then a few days later, I did it again, and now I'm down to close to a 10-minute mile. So I'm looking forward to getting to the point where I'm an 8-minute mile.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So anyway, that's my personal health journey. For anyone who didn't know, if you can walk, be grateful today. So what are we talking about today anyway?
Well, let's talk about skills. I mean, so you had a skill of walking. Sounds like you lost it for a period of time.
That's true. That is true. Although I'd much rather maybe talk about my nunchuck skills.
Oh, we'll have to see those one of these days.
That's right. I'll leave you in suspense on that one.
I knew a guy who had a set of those, and he was actually pretty good. But he said when he was learning, he knocked himself out 3 times.
No kidding.
So, like, yeah, I don't need to learn that.
I think if I ever did that black eye or anything, I'd blame my wife just to see what people said.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, probably not going to go there.
I did hurt my middle finger once, and they put it in the little straightener, right? So if you could imagine me driving down the road with the middle finger stuck upwards, I probably didn't have a lot of happy people watching me drive.
Just
But
waving at everybody. like a normal
Exactly.
skill?
Yep. But anyone who asked, I just told them that was the last time I flipped my wife off.
There you go, that works.
So going
Well
back to skills.
well, let's, we've got, um, we know that skills are important. There's something fundamental to every business. You bring skills to provide value. And one thing that I've been thinking about with my own family and children is, which is actually where this come from, is what skills are my children developing,
Mm,
and what skills am I developing? And thinking about this, it's like, I've got that one child who, and they all go through different phases and stages. Like, so
right,
this
totally.
isn't to say that like this is a long history, but lately there's one of them that's been pretty moody and gotten really, really good at complaining. It's like, man, you have really built up that skill, like from like a very base level to like you're good at it now.
And they're pushing level 8 or 10, huh?
Yeah, and so just and thinking about that just in a business context is like we all have skills that we're good at. Like I know one skill that I've been very, very good at is perfection. You know, meaning always working on perfecting whatever the project is, whatever the thing is, never actually releasing, never
Is
actually.
isn't your motto "Perfect is close enough," I guess? Oh, that must be some other guy I know.
Yeah, it's I think wrong show.
Oh, okay.
But some people, it's like, they may have a really good skill at avoiding hard conversations.
Hmm,
Like every time they avoid a hard conversation, they get better at it, and it
right.
becomes easier.
Yep.
Because as humans, we're wired to take the path of least resistance. We're wired to minimize our energy expenditure. That's natural, normal. But as entrepreneurs, we flip that on its head, or at least we have different math for it, so that what might look like an energy expenditure to somebody else looks to us in the long term to be lower expenditure of energy. So whatever factor it is that makes entrepreneurs, people who are willing to push boundaries, people who are willing to go and try, um, where other people are just going to accept the status quo, we still have skills, and some of these skills that we're building, just like a muscle, are really beneficial to us. As you like for, in your example, you're building that muscular strength, cardio strength to be able to increase the speed at which you can cover a mile.
And you know what was the most shocking about that whole thing? The thing that gets weakest the fastest is down in my like, the ankle to calf area in my body. That's what gets tired first. Had I not been pushing the boundary, I would have never known that that would be the part of me that got tired first. I never thought that I needed to exercise those muscles because as a young as a teenager and young adult, I was on roofs all the time, and so I'm standing on an angle, and those angles were pretty steep and stiff, and I had to have extreme muscles down in that region at that point. And so for me, I would have never guessed that that was the weak point for me to run.
Yeah, well, I mean, I can say when I haven't been running for a while, it's always ankles that feel it the worst, after for the first run or two, and then but then it quickly changes.
Mhm. But I
Um,
think that also accounts, like, as we're talking in business, there's some
mhm.
correlation there. Like,
Yeah,
unless we're pushing the envelope, we're gonna assume that the weak spot's one area, but once we start pushing, we're gonna find where the real weak spot is.
yeah, that's exactly right. And so, like, but we bring these skills. So your skill of running, a plumber brings their skill of being able to understand how plumbing works, how to fix a leak, or how to install plumbing in a new house or building, and being able to make sure that it's to code, and that they follow the plan and they put in everything the right size. They know what materials to order. how to price a project. Like there's a pile of skills that go with being a plumber, and at the same time, there's other skills they may bring from their life or other places that may not serve them. And and so I just wanted to make that distinction that we build skills of all types, but not all of them serve us. And and so we need to figure out how can we, we talk using the analogy of muscles. If I've seen people who break their arm or their leg, and get a cast on it, and 6 or 8 weeks later, when that cast comes off, their left arm is completely different size than their right arm, because they haven't been able to use it. And so part of it, as business owners, I really want us to think, what are some skills that we have that we need to put in a cast?
Hmm. And let's pause for a moment and go back again to that story you told earlier, because you were talking about one of your kids and how they have developed the skill, and we'll use that word skill in a very specific way, maybe some quotation skill of complaining. Most people don't think of that as a skill initially. Skills are the things you want to have. But in
Yeah.
this context, skill is anything we're good at, right?
Yes, that is the definition we're using for skills. Anything that you're good at and that you can improve or get better at. And so whether that's playing the piano, whether that's exercising, whether that's procrastination, whether that's um, delegating the correct way, or maybe
Mhm.
delegating an incorrect way, and then spending all your time complaining that nobody does anything right. I mean,
Perfect.
there's a pile of skills, and so yeah, we just need to be able to pick and choose which skills we want to keep and continue to grow, and which ones we need to essentially uh, break and put in a cast, so that they become more difficult for us to do over time. And all of that comes back to the vision of what we're trying to create. It's like, where are you trying to go? What do you want to build? And that will give you the guidelines of what skills you need to focus on and which ones you can let go.
I like that. So is there
Um,
any place where complaining would actually be a benefit?
hmm. Well, I mean, there can be aspects of it. It can be recognizing that something isn't as good as it could be.
That's a good part. Yeah, if you break complaining down into its core components, complaining does have to recognize that something could be better.
Which again is something that all entrepreneurs can do, is we can recognize that there's a value to be provided in taking
Mhm.
something from one state, or the way that it is, and changing it to be different,
Hmm.
and getting compensated for that.
But the complaining part, the
The
actual
com-
act of the complaint, is there a
yeah.
state or a place where that's beneficial? Again, one of the
Well,
components of complaining is you have to learn how to articulate to a certain no, I guess you don't. I've heard a lot of guys that can't use more than four-letter, long words complain. Huh.
yeah, I can't really think of a positive, yeah, at least a constructive, we'll say, place for complaining.
Let's
There's
toss
not a
that out to everybody. Maybe that's our puzzle of the day. Is there ever a
oh,
place
yeah.
where complaining is a net benefit or is a positive thing? Let's hopefully get some feedback from people on their opinions.
Yeah, well, that'd be great. Well, I mean, because for example, I think a lot of it can come down to intent. So I was recently on a dive trip, and we were scheduled to dive at a particular location, but the dive master took us somewhere else, and we're like, "Wait, this isn't where we thought we were going to dive."
Mhm.
And so one of the ladies in the group approached the dive master and said, "Hey, we thought we were going to dive over here." The dive master, "Well, I get to take you where I want to take you." And she's like, "Well, yeah, but I thought that we were going to go over here, and that's why some of the people in our group didn't want to come because they were worried that the dive was going to be too deep or deeper than they wanted to go. And so, she left it at like, you make your decision, but all of a sudden, 30 seconds later, we pulled anchor and went to the other spot. And it ended up actually being one of the favorite dives of that whole trip.
Wow. Good thing that lady spoke up then.
So yeah, well, it really was. And I guess the question is, was she complaining, or was she just sharing her opinion and expressing what she wanted to have happen?
Mhm. Yes, yes.
Um, so if we're going to talk, come back to skills,
Mhm.
where we're wired to do what's easy. So whether that's if you're really good at spreadsheets, for example, you are going to see any issues that you're trying to solve as a business owner and see if you can solve it with a spreadsheet.
Right.
Which comes back to, if you're a hammer, everything you see is a nail.
Totally.
And so if you're a spreadsheet person, you're trying to figure out, how can I solve this with a spreadsheet? Or if you're a driver, let's say your car is always pulling to the left, you can compensate by steering to the right. It doesn't actually fix the car, but you get really good at holding that steering wheel to the right, leaving the car still broken. So, so we can get skilled at things that don't actually serve us. And um, you might say, I work best under pressure. Who does that? What skill does that sound like?
Yeah, the working best under pressure means that somebody doesn't know how, and so they have to rely on external pressure to get them to do what they're supposed to.
How about somebody who's very, very good at pointing fingers? He did it. It was his fault.
Yeah, what's that saying? There's no problem so big, no issue so large, it can't be blamed on someone else.
Well, then again, like, I know, like, one of my own skills is being a perfectionist and just stalling, just continuing to try and iterate over and over and over again, and not getting something actually launched.
Mm,
And that's something, that's a skill that I've developed with much time and practice.
have you
That
perfected it?
have I perfected? Yeah, not quite, but I'm getting
Good.
there.
Keep working on that, don't give up.
Well, no, that's one of the things I need to put that in a cast, because I've also learned
Oh,
that
no, you might wanna perfect that one. Perfect your
that
perfectionism.
I take, when you just take action and just go with it and iterate after you've started, rather than waiting to have it perfect before you start, that is something that leads to success. But that is also at the same time something that can be difficult to remember, when I'm so good at defaulting to trying to perfect something over and over and over again before I'm ready to reveal it to the public. Just like this podcast. We decided that we should do it, and then we scheduled it for the next day, and then we just did it. No
Mhm.
script, no anything. And the argument is that we're getting better at it. Yeah. And we're building up the skills that we need to be able to have a conversation live, and eventually hope to be able to make it entertaining enough that we get a lot of people to tune in.
Yeah. I used to going back to my road biking days, I used to ride all over the Treasure Valley. I just like I said, hours and hours. And it got to where I was out enough, I'd started recognizing people that I'd see because everyone has similar patterns and routines that they're following. And I saw some people who were just making it happen in regards to their health. And absolutely incredible. They're just like pumping it out, going after it. And then I'd see other people and they'd show up once or twice and then disappear again. And this one guy I saw was sitting on a bicycle that I think probably at the time cost more than my car. And then it was a road bike and he had the full uniform. Plus, he had these extra arm things on. And then he had all the accessories on the bicycle. And I'm guessing the guy weighed about 350 pounds. And I saw him twice in all the time that I cycled. And I'll never forget that because I am sure that what he did is he prepared himself all the way up to the moment that he had nothing left to prepare for. And then he got on the bike once. And then he pushed himself and did it again. And then decided this wasn't for me. That's my assumption of what happened there. And that's kind of stuck in my brain because the thing he needed the most was the exercise. And he could have bought a $50 bike at Walmart that barely worked and gotten the exercise he needed. But instead, he spent a ton of time, effort, and money trying to ramp himself up to the point he was ready to take the action that he actually needed. And I'm assuming it didn't pay off because I never saw him again after those 2 times.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good wake up call for me again to remember to just just go for it. Don't worry about that perfection because the quickest way to actually perfect something, and I know this, I'm working on feeling it, is to just start doing it and then iterate live as you're doing it.
Can I tell you a little secret?
What's that?
If God had wanted us to be perfect, he wouldn't have made us human.
What would he have made us?
I don't know, but it wouldn't be the way we are.
That's fair. Ah, um, well, so what do you? How would you? Let's get to a workshop, and
Mhm.
so somebody came to you and said, "I'm working 60 hours a week, but I still feel behind."
Ah,
What would your? How would you diagnose that person?
well, first off, I think I'd commiserate with them a little bit and let them know, man, that sounds terrible. I'm sorry you're in that position. And then I'd immediately pivot and start asking them, what are you doing with your 60 hours? Because what they say they're doing with their 60 hours will indicate where their brain is and where they're obsessing and focusing, but it's not actually going to indicate what they're actually doing necessarily. There's a huge disconnect between what people think they're doing and what they're actually doing. So oftentimes it takes an outside view to see what they're actually doing. But by asking that question, we can know where the brain's stuck.
Well, I think yeah, you're jumping right there. I think there likely are a handful of cases where somebody is actually working 60 or 80 hours a week, and they're working. They're being productive with that time. Of course, the only type of work I'm aware of where you can be productive at 80 hours, 60 between 60 and 80 hours a week consistently is construction, when it
Mm.
doesn't require a lot of mental effort and energy. But for entrepreneurs, if you're in the trenches like that, then you're not really being an entrepreneur.
What do you mean by you're not being an entrepreneur? Because there's a lot of people who will hear that and be like, "Wait, what are you talking about? I've been an entrepreneur my whole life and I've picked which 80 hours a week I want to work."
Right? Because if you're the guy that is if you're spending 8 hours a week in just fulfillment, just getting the work done, you're just somebody with you're just somebody who's um, flipped the script on how you get paid. I mean, for lack of a better word, you're just a complicated 1099 contractor.
Hmm. Now you're saying if they're working 60 to 80 hours a week inside the business, making the business run, doing the operations of the business. They've basically bought themselves, instead of one boss, they've now bought themselves the boss of every customer, and they're
Pretty
nothing but a
much.
1099.
But again, if they're so stuck in those things, but as we know, there's very few people who are actually, when they say they're working 60 hours a week, they might be consuming 60 hours a week of time that they claim as work, but at the end of the day, when it comes down to it, if they get an outside view, or they actually create that artificial outside view by doing a time audit,
Mhm.
the time that's actually spent working, or the time that's actually productive, is much, much less. Not even usually, often not even half of the time that they're actually spending is truly productive time that's actually building the business.
And yeah, your definition of productive means making the business bigger than it would be otherwise, or
Not
better.
necessarily, just in a way that creates more freedom for them, as opposed to tying them deeper into it.
Right.
So again, as entrepreneurs, we seek the challenge, we seek to create value, we seek to be able to create more value, often with the purpose of having time, money, and relationship freedom.
Yep.
But if you're not doing that, then you basically taking your entrepreneur hat off and set it off on the side. Not that you can't pick it back up, but you're not wearing it if you're stuck in the trenches, spending that much time. And so I
And to
think,
clarify my position on that, the hats are flying on and off faster than you can really put on. So for 5 minutes over here, I'm wearing the entrepreneur hat, then I take it off and I'm wearing the fulfillment hat, and then I'm wearing the sales hat, and then I'm wearing this hat and that hat. And so to the entrepreneur, it feels like they're doing entrepreneur stuff, but the role of an entrepreneur is to start and scale a business and make themselves the least important person in the business. So while I'm doing the operations, I am not doing the role of the entrepreneur. I'm not wearing the entrepreneur hat. I'm wearing the operation hat. And you can take that hat and put it on someone else easily.
yeah, yeah, you've got to work yourself out of a job. At whatever jobs you're doing, you need to work yourself out of at least a few of them every few months to be able to make progress as an entrepreneur. Otherwise, you're just stuck.
Definitely.
Um, so for this person who says I work 60 hours a week, but I still feel behind. Um, like for me, I would, after doing that diagnosis, as you said, you start with them. I would go to, being busy isn't the same as being productive.
Yep.
And if you built the business so you can work 60 hours a week, then good for you. If that's what you really wanted, then you've met your goal.
You're
Like,
successful. Good job, buddy.
you're successful. But if that's not what you built the business for, if that's not why you started, and that's not what you want now, then let's do the basics. Let's do a time audit, and let's figure out where you actually are your most productive, and get you in that spot.
Definitely.
Um, what would you say to somebody who says, my customers are impossible, my employees don't care, and the economy is killing me?
I, I'd say, wait, Brett, is that your son talking?
It is not.
Oh, okay. All right. Well,
Though,
that,
though this particular son is really struggling with his business.
oh,
He's tired of it.
oh no, burned out, huh?
Yeah, it's not giving
Better
the
tell him to
results he
start
wants.
listening to our weekly show.
Yeah, well, maybe we'll have to do that.
There you go. So that particular person, I think, has lost some of their hope. That's the root diagnosis, is they've lost some of their hope that business is actually going to work for them. But then some of the systems and structures that I'm hearing that are a problem is they didn't establish the culture of the business, which means they're now attracting whatever flies in as customers and whatever flies in as an employee. And so they didn't establish what this business was going to be from the get-go, and they didn't clarify that to the people that they're associating with. And so people don't assume the best. They just assume that you can do whatever they think. They're like, "Oh, Bob likes computers. Oh yeah, Bob can help me fix my computer when it's broken. Oh yeah, Bob can fix my internet. Bob can fix my printer. And pretty soon you get all this garbage work coming in that isn't at all what you wanted to do. All you wanted to do is build some, I don't know, maybe it was a cryptocurrency that Bob's working on. And then Bob hired all the wrong employees because he didn't set the culture and the vision for the business as well. And then Bob also doesn't have an effective means of attracting the right customers to him and enough customers to him, which is why the economy is killing him. The economy's killing me means I don't know how to find customers, therefore I'll blame it on the economy. That's my quick 30-second assessment of Bob.
Would you think that this person has any issue with a hero complex?
Hmm. That is a byproduct, I would say, of not establishing the right business brand and um, the right culture in the company. Is he had to ride in on his white horse so many times that, yes, I think he suffers from that, but I don't think the root solution is to simply say, get off your high horse. It's to restructure the business so you don't ever have to ride the high horse.
Yeah, well, I guess I would challenge that because I would say that that the hero complex is the reason why they don't structure their business and create a culture that can be sustainable without them, where
Hmm,
they continue because they have that hero complex. It's something that they thrive on. It's something that they're skilled at, and so they create, intentionally create or unintentionally, but they create situations where they are required to fly in with their cape and save the day.
interesting. I think we've reached the chicken and an egg here.
Well,
I think it
that's
could
it.
go either way depending on the individual.
It probably could.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of entrepreneurs that have that hero complex, and they come in, they save the day, and then they check out, wait for the problems to build up enough that the fires start, and then they have to dive right in again. And look, I saved the day. Nobody else can do anything right. You need me. I'm so important.
Yep.
And then
Totally.
they step out again. So
And we're actually at almost 33 minutes. So we're almost 10% over time today.
we might have to do a little bit of editing on this one.
Would if we could, but tough luck.
Okay,
All right. We better end it here and we'll pick it up again next week. See ya.
thanks.